Well. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, Smokin' and Toastin'. It's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I didn't want to do too big today for the show open because next week is the 100th episode, and I wanted to save a really...
So are we purposefully keeping it on the down low?
Just keeping it on the DL a little bit today, just so I've got something left in the tank.
Because episode 99
yes, it's a big
is
deal.
just not as important as episode 1.
But it is a big deal. 99 is a big deal. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814
Isn't that a song? I got 99
Washington
episodes.
Ave. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
9,999,999 tears to go. What was that? That was question mark in the Mysterians. I'm so unimpressed with myself.
You got me on that one.
Yeah. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. 99 lines about... No.
99 red balloons.
99 red balloons. And it was 88. The song I was thinking of was 88 lines about 44 women. That was one of those new wave songs back in the 80s. Okay. But enough of that. Welcome to the show that's all about cigars and craft beer and fine spirits. And my name is Ian. No, my name's not Ian. My name is Cruz.
Get that backwards.
Ian is here in the studio. And we also have, as a special guest today, the return of the very first special guest we had on the show.
Now, this is his third time on.
This is his third. Yes, Mark Nichols is with us.
He's so fun.
Our return guest. So he's going to be drinking beer with us, telling us what he's up to these days because he has headed out on a new venture that's I think is very interesting because I'm hoping that a lot of bars in our area avail themselves of his services.
Yes,
I really do because it can make the beer.
It's going to be interesting. You get to see a little bit of the other side of the bar, so to speak.
So I want everybody to know that Ian called me, or actually I think he texted me, and then I called him back. But he contacted me this week and said, "I got the beers covered for the show this week because normally I'll bring in the beers or I'll bring in a couple of them, and Ian will bring one in, but every now and then Ian's like, I got it." So he tells me, I got it this week. And then you dropped the bomb on me.
Baby.
Of what you were bringing in. Ian has brought in, and I've never tasted it before. And I'm so excited. You brought in Pliny the Elder.
I did.
Finally, now you've tasted this before, but for me, I've been reading about it for a couple of years, and it is not available for sale in Texas, which is where we live. And I look for it every time I go out of state, but I've never actually found it and grabbed it. So I'm very excited. Do you want to relay how this came to be?
I sure do. I'm in a brewing/social club called CCSD. You may see me wear the shirts from time to time. The Connoisseurs Club of Smoking and Drinking. And we have a member who moved out to California. And every year we have what we call road trip where we all go camping. And he drives in every year. But he brings, because he drives this big old van. It's a creepy looking van too. It looks like he's about to abduct somebody at any given time. But
tell him, do not drive near schools. No. Just don't. Yeah.
But anyway, no, he fills it up with a bunch of beer that you just can't get here.
Yeah.
And so he drives in, and then he sells. We do some tasting and stuff, but then he sells us some of the beers because he's trying to recoup for his trip and everything like that, and we gladly overpay for some of these beers and say, here you go, man, fantastic. Yeah. But he brings great beers, and I've bought a few. I bought a few from him. One of them was Pliny the Elder. Now it's not the freshest bottle.
Yeah,
but it is Pliny the Elder.
We'll talk about that.
So yeah, we're at least happy about that. And I also have a second offering that he brought as well.
Okay, you want to talk about that? Tell us what we're looking forward to today.
Well, I can't remember the entire name of it, so you got to give me.
You can pull it out of the cooler there, and I know you got a cool Shiner beer too.
I did. I actually brought the Dewberry Tart, the Brewer's Pride Dewberry Tart, which
that should be awesome.
Yes, it's very interesting. And so this is barrel aged, proudly brewed in Northern California. It says beer is agriculture.
It's farm to barrel, isn't it?
Almanac Beer Company. This is the farm to barrel.
Nice
Sour.
That is so nice.
Yeah, we're pretty sour.
So it's a
sour
sour.
stout aged in
stout.
Woodford Reserve bourbon barrels with orange peel and cherry. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And true to form, that is a 9% beer.
True to form. Well, good. We are looking forward to that. And I also understand that you've brought a spirit for today, which you're not telling me about.
No, it's a surprise one.
Okay.
So we're going to set aside that last segment today and talk about that spirit.
So I'll tell you what else we're going to try to set aside today. It's going to be a very full show as we get ready for show number 100, which we'll talk about in a minute. But also on today's show, we're going to be bringing you, we hope, it's in its final stages at the editor now. And it's supposed to be ready before the show's over so we can bring it to you. But a montage of our misadventures at the Houston Whiskey Social this last week, which I just want to go on the record as saying still the greatest spirit beverage event I've ever been to.
Ever.
And it was just such a good time.
It was amazing.
I had a blast at this thing.
It was amazing.
An absolute blast. So, Chris Hart, if you're out there, and I know you often are, and Chris will be on our show next week on the 100th show, but I just have to give you kudos, man. You really pull it off.
Man, so if you wanted to go to that place
I'd just like to
and
point
have
out-
a bad time,
I'd just like to point out, I don't know if the camera is catching it or not, but Mark is about to shotgun a beer while we do the first segment.
that makes it easy to keep a straight face.
Oh, that's so good. I just saw him poking the hole in the bottom, and I knew what was about to happen. Life is good. But no, Chris.
He did that in seconds. Did you see that? by the
No,
way?
it took no time at all. Chris Hart, you're just you're a master of the genre.
If you went to the Houston Whiskey Social with the intent of not having a good time, you would fail.
You would. Now, there was this great moment I have to tell you about. I saw Chris, this was later in the evening, saw him disappear into the kind of like, the VIP room back where he and some of the other guys were, had a little area to get away from it all for a moment because it was pretty crazy there. I saw him come out with a bottle. I don't now remember what it was. I think it was some...
The old rip.
Maybe. Saw him come out with the bottle, and he's holding the bottle like underneath it, like this. And people are just walking past him with their glasses, and he's just pour. And I thought, that must be what it's like to be Santa Claus.
He
You know?
is so generous with the absolute rarest, like, holy grail bourbons you can possibly find.
He's pouring it like it's Jack Daniels,
"Here's some for you,
yeah, right.
some for you."
It was amazing.
He poured some of that old rip in my wife's glass, and he gave her an incredibly generous pour, to which she actually wouldn't even try anything else till she was done. She was just coveting that glass.
I remember how much she was
Because
loving
that stuff for an ounce and a half, I believe at most places is like $90.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nuts.
and he was just pouring it like it was,
Here you go.
Yeah. So, all right. So a lot going on the show today, including, and man, I really hope we have time to get this. There's a new beer that's out that is brewed with the essence of a woman, and that's all I'm going to say for now.
I'm a little bit speechless.
Yeah, I should say. So we'll have that story coming up. Plus, we're going to talk about the 100th show free-for-all, which is next week. I'm so psyched.
That's going to be fun.
It's going to be just completely off the chain.
He's going to be back. He's going to be on 2 shows back to back.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that'll be a first, I think, for a guest, right? To be on 2 shows back to back. So we have that coming up. There's update on the ongoing cigar lawsuit deal. So we'll tell you about that. And wow, there's so much on today's show. But I guess I should take this moment to ask you, as we so enjoy doing, if you smoked anything interesting this week.
I do. I have something to say about cigars.
Yeah?
Cigar's good.
Yeah, I like your commentary, and I second that.
Cigar's
emotion.
good. I ran across, every once in a while I find something that's just fun. Mm-hmm. And I ran across these Perdomo champagnes, which are good. That's a great, like, mild cigar. Sometimes even almost in a medium range, depending on the size you get. The flavor will be a little bit bigger. But they had one called a sun-grown, and I hadn't seen that. And the sun-grown tobaccos always have a little bigger, fuller flavor.
They're a little more robust. Yeah.
And I believe that's the top of the plant, basically, that gets the most sun.
So those leaves get more sun.
Those are separated.
A little
Yeah,
more fragrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and the size I bought was interesting because it was like 4 inches by 44. This is a small small cigar.
Especially for you, because you're Mr. Big
Right.
Ring Gauge. Yeah.
But I bought them specifically because I thought, you know what, these are great for tossing into your pocket, especially if you're wearing a jacket or something. It's not going to, beat it up and stuff. It's great to just toss one in your pocket and bam, I got a cigar. And it's a short smoke. It's a 20-minute smoke or less, So I was motivated by all these things. And then I took no real reason to smoke it other than the fact that, hey, I just want to smoke that cigar. So I did. It was delicious. It was everything you expect from a Perdomo champagne, except for it had a bigger, fuller profile overall. It had a little bit of pepperiness, and it was a little more towards the medium to full range as well, even from such a small cigar. So the initial smell on this was a little champagne, a little earth, a little leather. Champagne, sorry, I meant a little earth and leather. It is a champagne.
I was still rolling.
You're still following me, right?
Yeah.
And it has that really nice sun-drenched kind of like slightly darker, but still very, very light-colored wrapper. This is a let me see here. Where is it? Oh, Nicaraguan sun-grown wrapper. That's what I was looking for. So the flavor profile on this thing was wonderful. It's this nice traditional tobacco kind of Cuban seed kind of flavor going on. It's the filler's a little on the lighter side, but as you're smoking the cigar, about a third in, it starts building up a little bit. You get a little bit of pepper, a little bit of spice, but not a lot, not a big punch. But the fullness and the flavor comes from the overall like earth and leather of this thing. It's just pretty.
So it's
massive.
less about the spice and the pepper, more about the
the earth and the leather, and it really, really comes through and goes great with almost everything you put it with. Now, I've always married these with a Scotch, especially like a Glenmorangie is one of my favorite combinations. For whatever reason, those things just blend together very well. I didn't have that luxury. I actually had a beer with it, and it was fantastic. And then I had a cider with it, and it was fantastic.
Nice.
I smoked this thing down to where it was burning my fingers. It was a $4 cigar, $4.50 cigar. I'm going to give it a solid 6. I enjoyed it tremendously.
Nice.
It was a quick smoke. It burned perfectly.
But I love $4.50 for like a little 20-minute
smoke.
That's awesome.
and toss it in your pocket and don't worry about it beating up.
All about the Perdomos.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
All about the Perdomos.
How about you?
Well, I realized actually after last week's show that for a number of weeks in a row, I've talked about fairly pricey cigars that I've had, and have loved pretty much all of them.
You're letting out your inner cigar snob a little bit.
Well, I thought so. So I thought it was time to balance the scales a little bit. Plus, I didn't want anybody thinking, that I actually had a lot of money, because that would be I would feel like that would be presenting sort of a false image to listeners of the show. So I thought I'm going to smoke an El Cheapo this week and talk about it on the show. So and by the way, in admitting that this is an El Cheapo, I think I put one of these in the batch of cigars that I gave you to pay you back for all the cigars you brought me in L.A. So I probably owe you a couple cigars. Is what I'm
I think we're fine.
Because I looked up the value of this as I was smoking it, and I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, I think Ian may have gotten shortchanged on that deal. But no, it was a nice-looking El Cheapo. It was the Odyssey Habano Toro.
I haven't smoked that yet. It's in my.
Okay, so you know the cigar.
It's in my humidor. It's got a little purple wrapper on it. Yeah.
All right, so I take this thing out and I pull the cellophane off. I still had the cellophane on. I thought, for an El Cheapo, this is a pretty nice looking cigar.
For those of you out there who don't speak Spanish, El Cheapo is actually Spanish for the cheapo.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And thank you for clearing.
Just so you know.
Thank you for clearing that up. But I thought, it's nice looking. It's not too rugged. Sometimes you get the cheaper cigars. They look a little
they look
rough.
cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. This one had a pretty medium brown wrapper. It's a Nicaraguan cigar, so that's one of the reasons that I had been excited about it, even though it was less expensive, because Nicaraguan tobacco is pretty much most of my favorite smokes are Nicaraguan these days. So they made it with a Habano wrapper, a Nicaraguan binder and filler. The pre-light on it though was pretty mellow, which surprised me a little. But then I thought, well, this is probably cheaper tobacco, so not. There was a little hint of cedar, and then I lit it up. And overall, I have to say first that I was really pretty impressed with the construction. Again, this is a cheaper cigar, so you're not expecting it to necessarily be rolled by the best rollers in the factory.
Right.
And this one burned just beautifully. Again, for a cheaper cigar, no complaints on the construction. Main flavor component of this thing, not necessarily surprisingly, seemed to be pepper. It was medium bodied. It wasn't full, but it was medium bodied. The pepper wasn't overwhelming, but it had that pepper element that so much Nicaraguan tobacco has a tendency to have. There was not a great deal of complexity to the smoke, but it certainly wasn't unpleasant. It was just fairly straightforward, and I enjoyed it. Now, the price to quality is tough on this one because it was a good cigar. Certainly not great, but let's be real. It cost $1.50.
Oh, see.
Yeah.
That makes a difference.
I went back and researched the price, thinking it was maybe a $2, $3 cigar, and I was going to say, yeah, you can do a little bit better than this in the budget category. But it was $1.50. So I'm going to give it a 5.5 on price to quality, with 5 being you get what you pay for. I feel like, yeah, I got a little more than $1.50 out of the thing. So I got to admit. Now, here's the deal. Last thought on this cigar, though. If you can spend $2.50 or $2.75 on a cigar instead of $1.50 on the Odyssey Habano, you should do it, because I can find you an option with a lot more complexity for that extra, $1.25.
Nica Libre.
Yeah, Nica Libre, the JR Edition Limitada alternative to the Romeo and Julieta, Hermosa No. 1. Those are cigars that are in that $2 to $3 range that really are much more enjoyable than this cigar was. But if the budget's $1.50, I'm sorry, this one.
I'm sorry. Good. It's hard to find a cigar that's pretty good, especially for $1.50.
Right, exactly.
So that's a find.
If I wasn't complaining about Eau de burnt paper at $1.50, I think it's a win. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think it's a win. All right, so we're going to return in just a moment with more information about the new beer made with the essence of women, and we'll return with Mark Nichols. How's that for making Mark Nichols sound like?
He's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. Yeah,
he's bigger than life. Actually, he's just bigger than me. But that's all right.
Smoking and Toasting is live, and we'll be back. Thank you for listening.
All right. The shotgunning the beer was hilarious.
Well, I'd heard him say he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I look over at it. Oh, here we go.
Last time I was here, I was just doing the tennis match.
Right.
And I was looking at the beer, and I was like, I so should pick that up and shotgun it.
Just
I'm
in
looking
the background
at the main screenshot where I'm just like sitting here trying to be inconspicuous, and I was like,
he's either about to shotgun a beer or he's making a bong.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting, where I believe Mark has broken the headphones. Life is good. Welcome back to the show. It is episode number 99 of Smoking and Toasting. We're brought to you by our good friends at B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and the shops at Clear Fork and Fort Worth. I am taking my wife to dinner at B&B this weekend. Very excited about it. Just decided it was time to go.
I think our last segment of the show should be us just singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall all the way through. Have you ever actually done that?
No. Never made it all the way through.
No.
Yeah. Have you?
I think I've made it as far as 70.
70? Yeah, that's about right. That's about where you bail and go, this wasn't a great idea.
It sounded better before we started.
If you were actually taking one down and passing it around. Okay, so Ian, I have to explain.
I tried.
During the break, Ian actually opened that beer, and we didn't get the full sound.
I did it on automatic.
You
You put a beer in my hand that wasn't open, and
you were trying to just put the top back on and open it, and that was less than spectacular. So now you're going to have to approximate the sound of opening the beer with your voice. Okay? Can you do that? Here we go. Ian opening the first taster. That wasn't bad, actually. I'm going to give you a sort of a half-ass credit for that.
We do silly things on this show from time to time.
Well,
so my wife went to the store the other day, and she goes, hey, I found this beer. I thought you might enjoy it, because I do like sour and tart ales. Mm-hmm. This is the Shiner's Brewer's Pride Dewberry Tart.
So the Brewer's Pride is like their special. It's sort of their time when their brewmasters get to do something that they want to do.
I think so, because we had another one. We had a Belgian
Yes, and it was quite good.
Not too
as I
long ago, it was
recall.
quite good. So this is the dewberry tart. This is ale brewed with wild dewberries.
I'm not sure what dewberries are. Do you
I
know
don't
what
either.
dewberries are?
I have no idea.
Good. I don't feel so bad now because I grew up in the country, so I know most berries. I've picked most berries. Do you know what a dewberry is, Mark?
A dewberry is extremely similar to a blackberry.
Okay.
There are, in fact, a lot of people confuse them as being the same. One of them, the main difference is the vine it grows. One of them grows on a bush. One of them grows on a vine. But
And
they're almost identical.
Flavor is similar?
Very similar.
You know, I'd just like to point out the last time Mark was on, there was some question like this. I don't remember what it was. We had no idea, and Mark just, boom, he was right
in
there.
whiskey.
That's what it was. It was the Ian whiskey.
This is the reason we bring this guy on the show. He's not only the beer poet, he's oddly knowledgeable about all things.
And I will say, in the past at least, he's brought some really awesome beers. So that's been a good thing. But today we're sampling this Shiner. This is the brew. Give me the title again.
This
Ian?
is the Brewer's Pride Dewberry Tart.
And did we show that to the camera? Let's make
let
sure.
me see here.
Let's make sure we show that to the camera. Brewer's Pride Dewberry Tart. And I will say, I'm picking up a very sort of blackberry-ish aroma on the nose for sure. It's pretty darn good. The pre-light sniff on this is strong. Yeah, it really is.
I have actually already tried this, and I'll tell you what my initial thoughts on this were after my first sip was, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. It's a little sweet and it's a little tart, and I wasn't really sure. And then I took 2 more sips. And decided I really like it. But it takes 3 sips to really kind of enjoy, I thought, like for my own experience.
That's interesting because the second sip did not seem quite as sweet as the first.
Right. So the sweetness goes away and the tartness is a little less tart.
So this is something that I've
and
noticed.
creates a dryness to it.
My wife and I were talking about this with champagne, sparkling wine this week, that both of us have a very similar taste in sparkling wine. We don't like the Prosecco, that sweeter sort of thing. We really like the dry, the brut. We really like the Spanish, the Cava, Brut Cava. And we both don't want our sparkling wine to be very sweet. We want it to be dry and more of a non-sweet taste. And we both have noticed that sometimes when you open a bottle, you pour it and you take that first sip, you go, well, it's pretty good. It's a little sweet. By the second or third sip, you don't get that same sweetness. I don't know if the palate adjusts.
You acclimate your palate a little bit to
it.
it. You know what? I bet this man can tell us exactly what happens.
Well, I'm experiencing a similar thing with this dewberry. Are you familiar with the phenomena of which we speak, Mark?
Yeah, it's gonna have to do with the astringency level. What it does is it creates a dryness in the back of your mouth. It actually makes you crave more. It's like the brewer's best kept secret. Make the beer a little bit astringent, and people will keep coming back to it
because you want more. You want another drink. Wow, interesting.
They think they're getting their thirst quenched when in that actuality they're getting thirstier through the process.
I love those sneaky brewers. That's pretty good. Mark Nichols is on the show with us. This is his 3rd appearance, and next week will be his 4th as he attends the 100 show Free for All. But Mark, you were here initially. You were with Goliad Brewing. You also were with New Republic, and now you're doing something entirely different. So while I sip on this a little more and stand by to give some comments, tell us, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm doing something that I in all honesty, should have done years ago. I have started Quality Draft. It's a draft quality business, basically.
So your job then is to help different retail, bars, places that pour draft beer, to improve the quality of the draft beer they pour. Is that right?
That's my main goal. I'm going to design and build systems.
Okay.
And budget allowing, I'm going to build it as close to the recommendations of the Brewers Association as I possibly can. I build from a different perspective. Growing up through the distributors, we were taught a cookie cutter draft construction system that basically was you build a line and then it's one size fits all for the beers, not necessarily going to do justice to the liquid in the end result.
So does that mean that certain kinds of beer might need a different approach in the draft lines and the way that the setup is originated?
Yeah, actually every style is a little bit unique in its CO2 volumes and the way it's delivered, like a German style wheat beer is going to have typically the highest CO2 volume, whereas your big Russian Imperial Stout is going to have the lowest CO2 volume. If you have a
which
cookie
makes
cutter,
sense from if you drink it, you can tell the
Right,
difference
yes,
in those,
absolutely.
right?
oh yeah, and if you have your carbonation program to a American lager. Over the course of that keg, the Russian Imperial Stout is going to pick up additional carbon dioxide, whereas the wheat beer is going to lose and slightly flatten out, which alters the flavor. CO2 is quite amazing. It does a couple of things. First thing it does is it actually creates carbonic acid, which gives you the sting on your palate when you drink. And the other thing is it creates surface area. So as it's dissolved, it changes the surface area of the beer, which changes your perception on the palate.
So let me ask you this. As I've obviously learned more about beer over the years, I've become a more discerning drinker. And used to, you just go into a place where they have cheap beer and you order as many as you can. And, that's called being in college.
Right.
But as you become a more discerning drinker, and I've noticed this, that I can really tell the difference in some bars where you order, bars or restaurants where you order a draft. Sometimes it comes out and it's got that. And you could be ordering the exact same beer, so it's not about what brand or iteration that you're buying. Sometimes it comes out and it's got that amazing freshness that makes you feel like, man, no beer is better than draft beer. And then sometimes you're like, I wish I'd ordered a bottle. In that second case, what are those guys most likely doing wrong? What's the most common thing that a bar is messing up on when the draft is just not all that fresh and good tasting?
The most common thing is going to be their balance of applied gas.
So it's just what you were talking about the CO2, right?
That's going to be the most perceptible to the novice palate, is a change in the carbon dioxide level. I brought some examples of some neglected lines, which are the number 2 cause.
So are we ready to show these to the camera?
Yeah.
Because I saw these before the show started.
This may make you. Yeah, look at that. You want to drink beer out of that?
So,
all right, now show a good one just for comparison.
Okay, so this is what a fresh line looks like.
the fresh line is actually a beyond normal. That's a barrier. Flexible barrier line that actually has silver ions for antimicrobial protection, and it's non-flavor permeating as well, meaning you can run like ciders or root beers and then run a light lager right behind it without picking up those flavors.
So going back to these really gross-looking ones, how likely is it that the beer I just ordered came through something that looks like that?
I'm sad to tell you that those
more
are
likely than I would like to know. Yeah.
If you're leaving your draft maintenance up to your distributors, their motivation is not to spend any more money than they have
their
to
motivation
on
is
your
to
account.
sell beer. And
Now,
do what
wouldn't
they
they
can do.
say that it's what's inside the line that counts?
Well, yes, and I would say that also. What's inside the line counts.
But you're saying what's inside the line in terms of what the line's made of, so that it won't add an unnatural flavor to the beer.
Right.
Right. Interesting. Well,
so a line like that, the bad example, those have what's known as beer stone, which is a calcium oxalate, as well as years of staining of multiple different flavors going on top of each other, as well as the likelihood of having lactobacillus and pediococcus growth as well.
those don't sound like things that I would really want in my beer.
No, it's sour milk and butterscotch.
I'm not
flavors.
Butterscotch is okay for candies at your grandma's house, but I don't think you want it in your beer.
Or buttered popcorn.
And you really don't want the sour milk flavor. So, if you want a sour beer, you want a good sour beer, not a sour milk.
This
beer.
is probably the reason that I've been that guy at a bar that's ordered a beer and gotten it to my nose and going, no.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, I'm very used to doing this if you order a soda, like a Coke or a Diet Coke or something at a bar, and they haven't even just cleaned the lines out that day. Like if the bar's just open. I mean, I learned this back working as a DJ in bars from my bartender friends. Like until you clean out the line, that stuff in there is nasty. It's flat and it's like yucky. Is the same thing true for beer? Do you have to clean the lines every day?
It shouldn't be. It absolutely should not be a balanced system. The first drop and the last drop out of the keg should be consistent and delicious.
Even all the way through the line to the
Wow.
tap
Yeah.
itself.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this
the
is really-
pressure's right.
Well, right, because the whole line and
You're
everything's
going to
under
hold
pressure.
that CO2 all the way through, and it's glycol chilled. Whereas the difference with Coke is they're using a cold plate, so it sits in an ice well.
Right.
So it's not chilled until it hits that cold plate. So the whole length of that line is hot, and then
And it just
then it
gets
runs through
nasty.
that little ice channel, and chills off at the very end.
What's interesting about this is that, obviously as I've learned more about beer and, learned to enjoy different kinds of beer, my favorite bars have been the ones that have multiple options on tap rather than going in, they've got 4 or 5 taps. So I've always wondered about these guys, like how much beer do they have to like throw out? Because at the end of the day, maybe somebody's only ordered 1 or 2 of those that night, and you got to like throw out the beer that's in the lines. What you're saying is that with a properly balanced system, they don't have to throw any of that beer out. That it keeps and it's just as fresh the next time they pour one.
Absolutely.
That's got to save you
That's-
at least a pour every time.
More
then,
than
right?
that, you would
Yeah.
think. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it does not make
So-
business sense to be burning.
Let me ask you
draft
this: when
lines.
you go into a place that has a whole bunch of multiple taps on there, they just have one CO2 regulating every single keg, or do they have a regulator on each keg that allows you to adjust the CO2 to each beer?
The best case scenario is going to have an individual regulator. That way you can monitor the individual beer's CO2 volume needs. However, a secondary popular method is to do a bank system where you might have 4 beers per regulator and putting carbonated
Right,
beers.
right.
Your
Makes sense.
primary regulator is going to be like your water main. It's going to hold the high pressure
Right.
and then supply and get regulated down
From
to the
each
keg.
bank
That
of-
way, if you're
yeah.
pouring 3 or 4 at a time, you're not going to run behind and end up depleting the natural CO2 out of the keg.
Right, and I assume as a bar owner too, like to build the perfect system, like anything else, to build the best system ever can get pretty cost prohibitive at some point in time, because even though you each one of these may not be a whole lot of money by themselves, by the time you buy 50 of them, it gets pretty pricey.
It does.
By the way-
that's why I suggest going with the stainless. They're a little bit more. They're not obnoxiously
Well,
more.
what are the
but they're-
differences
They're
between
going to last.
these?
This is a chrome plated brass.
I see the brass
It's
in the
also
middle
got some
there.
gunk on it if you look close to it,
So,
closely to it.
The
on
brass
there.
and then the chrome.
The chrome's going to wear off. Beer is acidic.
Right.
It naturally in the process it has a level of acidity, which is going to eat away at the chrome and expose the brass. And there are manufacturers out of this country that are still making leaded brass parts. So there are some. Not only off flavor potential, but there is also a low level of brass or lead exposure potential with these types of systems.
None of which is what you're looking for in your draft beer.
You know what's
Right.
amazing?
Yeah.
Is this little piece here is almost the same weight as this piece here.
Yeah, not surprising.
And then when you look in the end here, the mechanism that the flow mechanism there, I guess, is really intense. It's
It's a flow control faucet.
very
I didn't have. I
Cool looking.
used.
Let me
I
articulate
actually
this.
replaced all of these very recently at an establishment and upgraded them to all stainless all the way through shank connections and everything.
Well,
and
off the air, you have to tell me where that is so I can go drink some
You're right.
fresh, some fresh,
Absolutely.
some fresh draft beer. All right, we got to take a break. We will be right back. We are going to bring you, I understand, especially if Adam gives me the thumbs up, we're going to bring you a segment from the big event that Ian and I attended this last week, which
that
was
was
the
so
Houston
fun.
Whiskey Social. And we're going to taste Pliny the Elder, and I'm going to tell you about beer with the essence of woman. And that's not something you would want bad lines messing up on its way to your draft glass. So it's smoking and toasting, and we will be right back. Oh my God. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. It is show number 99. Our big 100th episode is coming up next week. And just to let you know, we're going to be doing the show live as we normally do. But we'll be live from a remote location where we'll be drinking and smoking along with what we hope will be a group of about 30 or 35 people. All people who have been guests on the show previously who are returning with fun stuff to taste and smoke and sample.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be sweet. Real quick, Ian, before we go to Pliny the Elder, which I'm very anxious to do, and I'm barely containing my kid at Christmas style anticipation. Last thoughts on the Brewer's Pride from Shiner, the Dewberry Tart.
My last thoughts on it?
Yeah.
I'm for it. I like it. I think it's.
Okay,
I think I think it's interesting, and we were talking during the break here a little bit. Mark mentioned that Shiner is the Spotswood Brewery's coming back around to starting to do more crafty things, and I think that I'll let him talk about that. But I think that he's absolutely right on that, and I really enjoyed this.
It's a great example of that in my
Yes.
mind. I actually really liked it. In fact, I went from thinking that's pretty good to thinking that's something I would buy. Like I would stock that in my fridge. Yeah, definitely. And they have been getting more creative and more crafty, I guess is a good way to put it.
Now,
of late.
tell us what you were saying on the break real quick about how Shiner's role in the beer industry here.
Well, Shiner's the most important beer to the Texas craft scene because it's literally the beer that will launch people from domestics to craft beer.
It starts the process, right?
It
Yeah,
does.
with their Bach especially.
It gets them, hey, there's more out
There's
there.
more to life
There's more
than,
flavor.
than Bud and Bud Light, yeah.
And, for years I thought Shiner kind of missed the mark on launching people up through their portfolio by doing beers like this. Rather, they were launching people on to the craft beers. These are necessary for their
These are good to see.
future.
It's good to see
these
them
are,
doing.
and they did a pretty rock solid job on
I
this
love
one.
their company.
Very
we
drinkable.
love Jimmy, their brewmaster. He's
Yeah.
like one of the greatest
He's a
guys
blast.
you could ever have on the show. He's awesome. And I just love that they're getting more creative and letting their brewmasters do something like Brewer's Pride, which I think is very well very well. And I understand though, it's hard when you're Shiner and you're selling Shiner Bock all over the country, left and right, like as fast as you can produce it. It's hard to go, yeah, we're going to take this much capacity from our brewery
Right.
and devote it to something that we know is not going to sell nearly as well, but is more of a crafty thing. So I understand how hard that is, but it's good to see them making the commitment to do that. I think it's awesome.
I'm going to let them know because I'm going camping this weekend, and I'm going
Yeah.
to stop by there on my way out.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, you should give them an advance warning. I definitely think. All right, I've been waiting for this for a long time. And Ian, I know you've tasted it before, but I've never tasted Pliny the Elder. It's been written up as being one of the greatest IPAs in the world, and I'm an IPA fan, and so I'm excited. Now, you got this from your buddy who brought it from California.
Yes, I did.
But you said there was a caveat about the beer.
So this is not the freshest example, and IPAs are supposed to drink very fresh.
Yes.
Within 1 or 2 months is usually it.
That beer expires at 30 days old.
Okay, so we're a little over that by
Okay.
most of the year. But we're going to try this anyway because
Okay.
I will tell you that if a beer has been treated well, it usually at least still is drinkable.
Okay, well, let's see.
But let's
what we
try
think.
it and see what happens.
See what we think. And there's plenty of times you go and buy those lesser known beers on the shelf, and they've been sitting there for a while too. So it's tough. It's tough. It's tough to keep. I think stocks rotated appropriately. In retailers. So I'm excited about this again because it's just been written up. The bar may be set a little too high for me with this because it's been written up so many times in so many publications and so many web things where they've listed the top 100 beers or the top 10 beers or the top 5 IPAs, and it's done number 1 or number 2 for so many years.
Yeah, I don't even think it was unseated until last year?
Yeah, I think that's right. So interesting. I like it on the nose. It smells nice and a little funky and a little intense hop wise.
It smells good. I'm going to see what you say about it. I'm going to let you be the first to try it today and tell us about the poison that it may or may not be.
Okay, so I'm trying to weigh how much of the flavor that I'm tasting is what it's really about versus the fact that it might not be as fresh as we mentioned, because I'm getting a little funk on the aftertaste that I don't know if it's what they intended for the brand or not. And Mark's shaking his head.
I think that's right, but I think the whole first burst of flavor is probably pretty true.
Well, I will tell you, the first burst I like a lot. It's like it's a very clean hoppy sort
and
of
malty.
First breath. Yes, you get some big malt in there initially. Mark, you've obviously had this fresher. Help us contrast what we're drinking now.
This beer is magical when it's fresh. The hops literally just dance on your palate. It's almost like a hop scrubbing action that just works right across the center.
For some reason, I thought of those little bubbles on the TV commercial.
The scrubbing bubbles in the bathtub.
Micro scrubbing
that's
bubbles.
the hops in this beer. It's delightful. The malts are extremely aggressive now through the finish, which are
this is a good beer,
almost
though.
unapparent in the fresher. The oldest one I've ever had is about 20 days old.
Prior to this one.
One, so
You can never say that again.
yes.
So how badly did this fare for its age? Or to put it another way, if I'm someplace and I see a bottle of this and it's 9-10 months old, do I want to buy it still or do I want to know?
No.
No. Okay.
You don't. In fact, I believe, from what I've heard, I've never lived in a state where it's distributed, but my understanding is that it's by contract must be pulled from the shelf at 30 days old. It's like absolutely forbidden to sell it. In fact, if you read the ring around the
we're
label,
drinking the forbidden beer.
it's literally like, don't be an idiot and store this. You better drink this as soon as you get it fresh, and all the way around the label.
So I'm feeling rather like an idiot.
It does actually say all that.
yeah,
I got to tell you though, even through all that, it's pretty good beer.
yeah.
Like this
It's
is
holding
delicious.
together. The malts are while they're aggressive, they're not.
Is it more malt forward than it would be if it's fresh?
By far. But the malts are pleasant. The beer is pleasant and drinkable as what it's evolved to.
Right. So interesting.
Yes, very.
You can taste the quality in it. You can taste a lot of stuff, but I agree. There's that the back end. There's just a little bit on that tail end, especially that says this is past its prime. It is, however, still very drinkable, and I'm not going to waste this bottle.
Indeed, we should not.
All right. So before we move on to cleaning out the lines, let me just share this with you. A beer made from the lactic acid of hot underwear models has gone on sale in Poland. And I'm not making this up. And when I say hot lactic acid, we're talking about
Sweat.
We're talking about Vajayjay. That's where we're going. I probably should have said at this point, if you got kids listening to the show. It's not like we have to censor the show, but like I'm sensitive to the fact.
I'm going to start making a list of things that I never thought I'd hear you say.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, that's I'll add to that the list of things I never thought I'd say.
And the serious look when you said, I'm talking about Vajayjay. That was priceless.
Yeah.
I can never get that out of my head now.
And nor should you. This beer has been launched by a brewery known as the Order of Yoni from the Polish capital city of Warsaw. Yoni is the Sanskrit word for the female genitalia.
So it's Sanskrit for Vajayjay.
Yes, it's exactly right. Thank you for clarifying
Noted.
that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm the translator today.
Customers can now buy the beer and taste the essence, I'm reading from the story here, of good-looking models at various pubs after its debut, which happened just 2 days ago.
Do you get to pick the model?
Well, the brewery's website kind of colorfully describes the sensations and has pictures of the different models that I guess are
So this is,
ascribed
wait
to
a
the
second,
different bottles
this
of
is
beer.
beer steeped in underwear.
Basically, yes. The brewery's website describes
Who'd have thunk it?
the sensations you might have and the process of making the beer somewhat ambiguously. One of the first customers who tasted the beer was reportedly not overly impressed, saying, the beer costs about the same as a normal bottle of wine, and he didn't find it that interesting. But he said people will try it out of curiosity. I don't think it will be a regular addition on the table.
It just
for
has
beer.
this nagging aftertaste.
Yeah, well, A promotional video for the beer shows a large brown bottle with a sticker being peeled back to show a photo of a model in underwear with the name of Pauline. The label says, and again, I'm not making any of this up, you were drinking the essence of Pauline, showing a diagram of two people doing it and a caption saying, the best sex position when drinking beer. Again, I'm not making any of this up.
I don't know. Where do you even find this stuff?
Well, I have to give credit where credit's due. My wife sent me this story like 5 minutes before the show started.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know where she found it.
You know, so you always have these show notes, and this is a
this one's
an
not
example.
in the show notes. Yeah,
But one of my favorite things about it is, even though I get this, and I'll sometimes look over the titles of stuff, I never look into any of the articles because I really
never
do
look
want to
them
hear.
up, yeah.
I want my reaction to be true.
I do want to read this one last thing. Amidst concern, it says in this article, about the hygienic implications of the beer, the Order of Yoni has reassured customers that again, you can't make this stuff up.
Say it's pasteurized.
The
Tell me it's pasteurized.
The ladies have been totally checked before having the process taken care of. And B, the scientific process they use to isolate the bacteria removes all possible unsavory elements. Yeah. By the way, the guy tried to do an online, like a GoFundMe thing, to get this, all set up, and he only raised like 1,500 euros out of needing like 150,000. But apparently, he found a private investor who believed in the beer of
Beer
the
steeped in
vajayjay.
underwear is a good idea.
Yeah. So there you go. I had to share that with you because how could I not?
I'm actually a little bit speechless on that. I'm stammering over here.
Yeah. Currently only available in Poland for those who are, going to be. Do me a favor. Do not walk into Specs and find Joey and go, "Hey, Joey,
this is what we need."
Do you have the? Yeah. No. Don't ask him.
I'm mostly intrigued with this best sexual position while drinking beer.
Yeah. I
research.
Unfortunately, it didn't. It didn't illuminate us as to what that position was, but I'm gonna. If I had to guess, it would be a position that would allow you to not spill your beer. That's the only thing I can think of.
True that.
So with that in mind, dilly indeed. So with that in mind. Let's talk about cleaning out the lines, or no? Maybe we no. Let's talk about Mark. You brought
the machine.
You brought some machinery in here to show us, as well as your very clean beer lines and your not so clean beer lines. What is this thing? Is this a new creation? Has this always existed?
No. Well, it's. I know for sure it's been around for at least about 15 years.
Okay.
But it's a lesser used but very important piece of machinery, and a lot of the cornerstone of what I'll be doing. I'll do the installations and upgrades and stuff like that, but the maintenance, like the regular maintenance intervals, are really getting overlooked. They're investing, in a typical glycol system they're going to drop $20,000, $30,000 or more $1,000.
Right.
And then just leave it up to the distributors to take care of.
So how often should they be getting something like this done?
A destoning treatment should occur every 90 days.
Wow. And so some of them don't do it at all, is what you're saying.
Right.
Hasn't been done maybe since the bar opened.
So there's a regular line cleaning that should take place every 2 weeks, and what they use for that is a high alkaline cleaner, which treats organic materials. It's going to remove anything living from the line.
Right.
But just like hard water creates water stone, beer creates beer stone, which is like a calcium oxalate that'll form on the inside of the lines, and you need acid to dissolve and remove that, and that should be done every 90 days.
Wow.
This pump, this is actually one of the larger and more has more features. It actually pulsates and does a scrubbing action on the lines, and will do a considerable length at one time, rated for well over 300 feet of run.
That's a lot of line.
Yeah.
So if somebody has you put your system in, you'll also set them up with a deal where they can,
Yeah.
have you come back and do this maintenance for them on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, it'll be what I would prefer to do is just set them up on an automatic calendar and be like, oh, I'll be here four times a year, and while I'm here, I'm going to not only do this, but I'm going to do what nobody else does. Is I'm going to climb up on top of the cooler wherever your glycol unit is, and I'm going to test the glycol solution for its freezing point to make sure that it hasn't. We're in a humid environment. It's a cold liquid, so it's sucking water out of the air. It's going to water down and end up freezing up. When it freezes, it expands. It can damage the internal coils. And that's in a lot of cases, that's $5,000-$10,000 piece of equipment just by itself.
Wow.
Depending on its size and some of the other variables. So it's like this is stuff that needs to be cared for, but nobody's really caring for it.
So if I go up to a bar and I get a beer, and you can tell, like I've done this before, where I go up to a bar and get a beer, and I get it even close to my nose. I'm like, that's not good. That's bad. Is that the lines doing that, or is there occasionally a spoiled keg, or what's the numbers on that? What's the averages on that?
Lines are probably going to be first. Now it could be a contaminated air system as well if they're not using the appropriate check valves. And the system ever drops pressure, the kegs are going to back bleed into the line, and it's going to put aroma into the gas system, which is going to be redistributed to all the kegs, which can give an off flavor as well. But typically your off flavors are coming from that example,
that funky line,
funky line, or a slight metallic taste from brass fittings.
All right, we're gonna take a break and come back with our segment from the Big Whiskey Social event. But before we do, I just wanted to say, I wanted to ask you, Mark, is there anything I can do to size up a bar when I walk in? Is there any way to know whether I'm going to be ordering a fresher beer, or whether maybe I'm at an establishment that doesn't do the proper maintenance and that needs to do? Are there telltale signs to look for before you taste the beer?
Staff education is going to be the big one. If you ask the questions, a well-informed staff is going to know about
what their procedures are.
Their system, their procedures. There's a lot of places that handle this kind of stuff in-house.
Because there's places you go to, and if the bathrooms are too nasty, you won't go back there. You know what I mean? And but this is the beer you're drinking, and so I think it's a pretty important thing.
I'm hoping to work with retailers on doing a grading system, maybe putting a plaque up when I take care of their accounts, so that the consumers get to know.
If you see a plaque that says,
this place is
love it,
has been built to the quality guidelines of
you
the
mentioned
Brewers
something about the
Association.
Brewers Association earlier.
Yes.
Now, are you a member of that?
I have an open invitation that I've got after 14 months of vetting, essay writing, phone interviews, and I've got the call 2 weeks ago welcoming me aboard.
So what you're saying is this is an easy thing that anybody can join, is what you're saying.
No.
Well, congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm in the process here. So they said the invitation's open, let us know, and
that's awesome.
When you're ready to go active. So
congratulations.
I am imminently making the call to say, okay, everything is set up, and my business, Quality Draft, has joined the Brewers Association, so I'm a member of it there, which was a requirement to be on the board. So next step, but and if you have the opportunity to go to one of their workshops, it's so educational. They train you, teach you about the lines. They will teach you about very specific elements, from nitrogenation or balancing the system, and then also a lot of the the marketing or the profitability aspects as well as a retailer.
For a guy who's known as the beer poet, like he's talking a lot of science to us tonight.
I know.
I'm grooving on the science. That's pretty cool. Okay, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back with the segment from the Houston Whiskey Social, and then in our final segment, Ian has a mystery spirit of some sort, which we'll be tasting, and also we have one more beer, which is the very, very, very interesting bourbon barrel aged stout.
Yes.
So, looking forward to that. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our 100th episode is right around the corner, but this is show number 99.
Oh, man, that was cool. I like the behind-the-scenes thing.
Mm-hmm. I like beer. All right, so...
Beer good.
So you can just start this whenever you're ready, but I really do kind of want to come and watch it.
Yeah, sure. You can watch it.
Is there any Pliny left?
Oh, I think so.
Which one was Pliny? That was this one. Yeah, I would love to taste a fresh one of these.
Yeah, because it's good like that. I can only
I know,
imagine
yeah,
it fresh.
Magical fresh.
So, do you want me to just start it?
All right, welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. So, some technical difficulties with our segment from the Big Whiskey Social. So, I tell you what we're going to do. Rather than try and squeeze it in to this week's show, because we got so much going on anyway, we're just going to delay that. We'll bring it to you after the Big 100. So that'll be maybe in show number 101. So we'll look forward to that. I think it'll be I think it's a really fun segment, but unfortunately, Smoking and Toasting versus the video editor.
We'll let it out.
The video editor
in its due time.
Yeah, in its due time. We will sell no wine before it's time.
Right.
Speaking of timing, the FDA has agreed to delay the additional packaging requirements on premium cigars. Now, you may remember we got the stay, but the FDA has agreed to the stay, and in light of this recent injunction postponing them, they've agreed to stop the ones that were set to go into effect next month until after the appeal process, as this ongoing cigar industry lawsuit continues to roll. So the regulations would have required that tobacco product packages contain the following labels: the name and place of business of the tobacco product manufacturer, packer, or distributor, an accurate statement of the quantity of the contents in terms of weight, measure, or numerical count, and the statement "sale allowed only in the United States" on labels, packaging, and shipping containers of tobacco product required under section yada, yada, yada. Those all were scheduled to go into effect as of August 10th, as, by the way, were the size requirements for these, because they were supposed to have to cover 1/3 of the cigar and or cigar box in the case of a box or a bundle. So obviously not something that the cigar industry was excited about, and so we're happy to have the stay as the appeal process continues. And while I am sharing this with you, Ian is pouring the mystery spirit that we're going to taste, and I do not know what we're tasting. So Ian, you're going to have to do all the build up here.
Well, buddy, boy, do I have a surprise for you.
You're still hiding it. You're still not showing me what you got here. This is interesting.
Because have you spent any time in Chicago?
I have, but it's been a number of years since I've been. I used to spend a lot of time actually in Chicago, but it's been a while since I've been.
Well, what I've brought, I have a friend of mine who's kind of a Chicagophile.
Mm-hmm.
He loves all things Chicago, and we were speaking of this particular spirit. This is very Chicago. It's about as Chicago as it can get. This is called Jeppson's Malört.
Malört.
Now, if you go to Chicago, there's certain bars that will have this, and if you say, "Hey, what do I have to have that's very Chicago?" This is something you will have to have a shot of.
Chicago's a great city, and it's got a lot more going on with food and drink than it gets credit for, I think, because
Yes.
people have a tendency to credit New York and Los Angeles, the coast, but Chicago is a very happening town, and they've got some bars and they've got some restaurants that are out of this world in Chicago.
And they also have Jeppson Malört.
So,
And on the bottle here,
what
it actually
exactly
says, "Well, this is a liqueur. This was started, I think, in the early 20th century, The bottle actually says, Jeppson Malört has the aroma and full-bodied flavor of an unusual botanical. Its bitter taste is savored by two-fisted drinkers.
Interesting. Now, I was going to say, I don't get a lot on the nose, but what I do get reminds me of gin, which is kind of confusing since this is an amber spirit. You know?
It also says color added.
Okay, well, there you go. But that's the botanicals.
Now, this is such like a Chicago native thing. Like, you actually can't get this most other places, so I'm really interested to see what you think about this.
Wow. I'm not sure what I think about it, to be honest with you.
The look on your face is priceless.
I just wasn't expecting what it is, and I've never had this before. So this is... It's very, and again, maybe it doesn't mix with Pliny the Elder, which I just had.
It's not that.
It's not
No.
that. Okay, well, it's just a little bracing to the taste buds. Is the best.
What
way
do you think?
I've picked up a lot of solvent on the aroma, and it has a distinct bitter.
Yes.
That I think would side by side with an IPA fairly well.
I hadn't thought about that. So I'm going to read you some of this because I could tell you all about what I know about it, but this is a beautiful thing. This is on Thrill List, okay? It's 14 things you didn't know about Malört. And it starts off by saying, what can you say about Malört that hasn't already been said, ... about drinking pesticide?
Well, there you go.
Whether you love it or hate it, or pretend to hate it but secretly love it, you can never know too much about it. Here are 14 facts about Chicago's polarizing cult liqueur. So this is actually a real thing in Chicago, okay? Now, I will tell you also, okay, so flavor-wise, I'm going to go ahead and point this out, that I took a sip with you because even though I've tried this before, I wanted to be where you're at right now. This is probably not something you're going to buy again. Okay? Unless you're going to do this, what I'm doing to you, to a friend here. Number one on here is it says it's not actually flavored with gasoline.
Well, it's good to know.
It's wormwood, a bitter herb known for its ability to kill stomach worms.
Well,
It literally is a pesticide.
Glad to know I won't have to worry about that.
It's also the main ingredient in absinthe, a liqueur known for its psychedelic effects. However, Malört's wormwood, it has an extremely low Thuhone level,
Means
or
it won't make you
Thuhone, whatever it is.
hallucinate the way
Yeah,
it
this won't do
yeah.
that. Okay. Let's see. Number 2, Chicago flag has 3 stars on it on purpose because. Let's see here. Because it predates the Century of Progress expedition in 1933, in which the 4th star was added there on the flag for Chicago. There. Okay. This gets more and more fun. Keep sipping this, by the way.
I have been.
Malört was one of the few beverages Carl Jeppson, who was the inventor of Malört, could actually taste.
I like his niece, Carly Rae Jeppson.
He was a Swedish immigrant who came to Chicago in the 1930s along with his homemade spirit. As a cigar shop owner and avid smoker, Jeppson loved drinking and selling Malört because it was one of the only things his tobacco-ravaged tongue could actually identify.
Wow.
Let's see.
I'm not sure I'll ever identify anything again after drinking it. This is just, I don't know how I'm going to get this taste out of my mouth.
Malört actually beat Prohibition. It was sold as basically a medicinal.
As a cleanser?
Yeah. Well, for cleaning, stop you from getting worms and that kind of thing, parasites in your stomach.
Okay, so now I understand why it was popular. Because you could get it during Prohibition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fan slogans are priceless. This is number 5. It says, Malört is an incredibly small operation. They only have 2 employees, including the owner. And while their budget can't afford print ads, fan-created promotions are right in the brand's wheelhouse. Here are some of their ad wizardry. Number 1, Malört, kick your mouth in the balls. Number 2, Malört, when you need to unfriend someone in person.
That's good.
Malört.
This must be good.
Malört, tonight's the night you fight your dad.
Oh, my God.
And it keeps going here. Hold on. Malört, the champagne of pain.
Oh.
Let's see. Malört, turning taste buds into taste foes for generations. Drink Malört. It's easier than telling people you have nothing to live for. There's two more here. Malört. It's what soap washes its mouth out with. and my favorite, next to the Tonight's the Night You're Going to Fight Your Dad one, my favorite is Malört. These pants aren't going to shit themselves.
Well, I just want you to know, Ian, I will remember this, and we'll respond in kind.
Well, see, challenge accepted.
Wow.
I thought this would be a blast because when's the last time we brought something that was just awful on the show?
It's awful.
It's bad.
There's no question.
It sticks to the tongue in the worst possible way. It tastes terrible.
I love that you were watching for what my first reaction is. Oh, the lingering is the worst of it. If I had tasted that and it was now gone, I'd actually be all right with it. But it's still hanging around, and I'm like, I may never be able to smoke a cigar again. This may screw up every possible taste bud in my mouth.
So I'm at number 7. Let me get through a few more of these because this is funny. Okay, so we're already through the fan slogans. Tonight's the night you fight your dad. That's pretty funny. So let's see. The Daily Show correspondents swear by it. Comedian John Hodgman brings a bottle of Malört to his stand-up shows, passing it around for the audience to chug. The bottle usually comes back to him 3/4 of the way full.
I believe it.
Oh, that's a good one. Let's see. It's distinctively Chicago's. 90% of all Jeppson's Malörts produced and consumed within Cook County. This glorious new Malört map will show you every bar and store on earth that sells it. Obviously, that's an article. You can look that up. The Swedes are responsible for the recipe. Malört's Viking fuel is made in the style of, I can't pronounce this, Basque Braven, a Scandinavian term for liquor distilled from potatoes, grain or wood, and also translates to bitter distilled spirit in Swedish.
Well, that makes sense. Bitter distilled
Oh, it
spirit,
is definitely that.
Because it is that.
Number 10, it was used to ease menstrual cramps. We're just going to go ahead and skip that one.
Who tried it for that?
Somebody figured that might be, I don't know. Number 11, I love this one. The company hired a guy that they nearly sued, okay? Malört had considered litigating against Sam Meckling for creating unauthorized Facebook and Twitter pages for the company without their consent. Instead, ownership decided it made more sense and was probably cheaper to hire him as director of marketing.
There you go. I got to tell you, it's unique among things that we've tried on the show in that it has no redeeming qualities of any kind whatsoever.
Did you say it's for Vikings?
It does have that kind of it's kind of like, when you go to Iceland, you can taste the 1,000-year-old buried shark, that they the fish that they bury beneath, and it's so pungent and all that. And I did not taste it, but from what I understand from those that have, it's just horrible. And I'm like, well, then why do they do it? And I think you can apply the same questions to Malört.
There is that. Let's see. It also shares a name with everyone's favorite nuclear meltdown. While Malört means wormwood in Swedish, the Russian translation of the word is Chernobyl.
Well, there you go. And I think that's as apt a thing to.
We're going to go ahead and let that one go, right?
Yep.
Number 13, it recently got more bitter. It used to not be this bitter. I just want to point that out.
So they were drinking and they thought, what this needs?
This is good, except
IPA craze.
Everyone burnt their tongues with West Coast IPAs and decided this needed to be more. The strength of wormwood, Malört's main ingredient, varies wildly. So some plants are more intense than others. Recently, a very strong batch of wormwood was found. And thanks to that, the last bottles to hit the market are tasting stronger than ever. Prepare for a severe case of Malört face. And then our last one on here, the original label ended with what sounded like a gypsy curse. The original back label describing Jeppson's brand was capped off with the first shot is hard to swallow. Persevere. Make it past 2 shot glasses, and the third you could be ours forever.
Wow. I'm not interested in the proposal, but thank you so much.
Now, after all that, I'm going to tell you the best thing I've ever heard about Malört, okay?
Okay.
Because my friend that gave me this bottle to bring on the show is actually quite a fan. He actually loves this stuff. And as much as I absolutely don't love this stuff, he absolutely loves this stuff. And when I told him how awful I actually thought it was, he says, Ian, it's not awful. It's challenging to appreciate.
And with that, we'll be back for our final segment on Smoking a Dozen. How do you follow up a segment like that? I just don't know if you can.
How did you like that?
That was awful.
It's terrible, isn't it?
I
Big bug?
can't find a redeeming
Yeah.
quality.
On the beach in Hawaii.
As we start our final segment of the show, Smoking and Toasting, show number 99, brought to you by our friends at B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. As we start segment number 5, our final segment on show number 99. So, guys, this will be our last segment before show number 100. So it's right around the corner, and I'm very excited. But I'd like to extend a special thanks to Karbach Brewery in Houston, Texas, who are now, as we have talked about many times on the show, they are now owned by AB InBev, so they're owned by Anheuser-Busch. But they still brew great beer, and I'd like to thank them personally because we had some of their Big and Bright in our refrigerator here at the studio, and it is helping me wash the taste of Malört out of my mouth.
Well,
before we try
so
our
I
final
have,
beer.
I kind of said this.
I like the Big and Bright, by the
I
way.
kind of said this during the break, but I have a new slogan for Malört. It will make you want to shave your tongue, not because you're growing hair on your tongue, but because the taste of the aftershave is better.
It's a long slogan, but appropriate.
It's effective.
It's a long slogan, but appropriate. Hey, have you guys heard about this new trend, by the way? We should talk about this before we get back to really good craft beer. Have you heard about this beer swaps? I got reminded of this by what you did when your buddy from California came and brought the Pliny, and you guys all, bought the different stuff that he brought. But beer swaps is becoming a thing now. And it's the latest trend in craft beer. It's kind of like blind dates for craft beer lovers, sort of. More and more, all over the place, all over America, grown men are connecting with others on beer-related internet forums and websites and agreeing to meet in order to swap harder-to-find craft beers with each other. So it's interesting. It's kind of like a date, but of course not. It's just about the beer, right? So I was thinking what my ad might read. Like, right, if I was to post an ad, my ad might read something like, married white male with lone pint jabberwock looking for a like-minded, sane person willing to swap for Monday Night Brewing Hand Brolo Pale Ale. We'll also consider Great Notion Brewing Ripe IPA. No fakes or no shows. Picture of beer required for reply. How do you think I would do?
Picture of beer required.
Yeah. See, I would have put Pliny the Elder, that I was looking, but of course now I've tried it. So,
There's that.
but I would still look for Pliny the Elder. But beer swaps becoming a thing. I could see you getting into this, Ian. I could see you like meeting somebody in a dark alley, with a 6-pack in your hand.
You got the 6-pack, buddy?
Yeah. You got the stuff, man. All right, so this has been perhaps one of the more unusual shows that we've ever done, but it seems appropriate that Mark is here for this show because he's such a good friend of the program. You know
I just
what I mean?
wanted to let you know he knew about the Malört ahead of time.
I had a feeling. Yeah, I had a feeling because he was a little too straight-faced during the whole thing and said
He was complicit.
"What?" Yeah. So, and I love that you were just watching for my first expression, and I hope I didn't disappoint.
Not at all. Do you want the rest of mine, by the way?
No, I do not. I don't want to ever actually see that stuff again. But that's just me.
Okay, speaking of stuff.
All right, stuff. Yeah, we got stuff here. We got
So,
stuff.
all jokes aside, because the Malört, come on, you got to admit that's hilarious. This is Almanac Beer Company, farm to barrel, sour. This is a sour stout.
This is a sour stout. I'm not sure that. I'm trying to think if I've had a sour stout. I've had sours in just about every other style, but have I had
Trying to remember if I've had one,
Sour
but I'm
stout.
trying to remember if we've done one on here.
I don't think we have.
The Mysterium Verum was not a stout. That was a
Scotch ale.
Yeah,
Scotch ale. Yeah,
yep.
so that doesn't count.
And we've had a number of great sours on the show, but yeah,
This is sour stout aged in Woodford Reserve barrels
it's got a lot
with
going for
orange
it.
peel and cherries.
It's got a lot going for it. I mean, I'm a fan of the Woodford Reserve. Ooh, Ian, you have acquitted yourself with the sound effects.
I'm working on it, man.
That was really good. That was really good. That was even a good pour sound effect. A little soft, but nicely done. So we're and once you've done the pour, you're going to have to tell me a little more about this beer.
I'm pouring a little hard intentionally to get a little head on it, so we can.
This is usually
really
where
get the aromatic.
where I'm trying to share some info off the bottle about the beer. So.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should hand you
have
that.
You'll have to either hand it to me or share it on your own as we. Oh, now see, that smells like something I want to try. All right, Farm to Barrel is from Almanac Beer Company. Almanac Beer Company. Do we know where these guys are from, Ian? Almanac Beer Company,
California,
San Jose, California. All right,
which is Spanish for San Jose.
It's Spanish for the Jose, I think. So Saint Jose, yes.
Saint Jose.
It's proudly brewed in Northern California, where it says beer is agriculture. It's barrel aged, and
This smells
it
so
is.
good.
And this was bottled in. Now this is interesting. This was bottled in December of 2015, but unlike the Pliny, this may
Will age.
actually
will age
benefit
nicely,
from the
yes.
aging. Yeah, as long as you don't age it too long, obviously. But
Well, there's always a turnover. So depending on the style of beer, a few years on it. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's more. But a few years on it can really enhance what's going on.
It is 9% alcohol by volume. I'm showing it to the camera there so we can make sure you guys see what this looks like, because I have not seen this before. Now, Ian, you and I were in California, about 15 shows ago or so, and had some very good and interesting California beers, but did not see either of these two in either places we were. So,
I would like to taste a younger version of this.
yeah,
Because this has a little bit of soy sauce going on in it. Not totally in a bad way, but a little bit.
yes, it does. I know what you're talking about. And considering it was bottled in 2015, it could be that even though these
could be
beers
the
are good
ages.
aged, it could be a little best.
Or it could be that's the way it is. Now, that being said, it's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Like
It is.
It is. Like the espresso and tart cherries are just beautiful
Well,
in
and
this.
the whole raisin and date thing that you kind of associate with this style of barrel aging is in full effect. But with that cherry on the final part of the finish, that sour cherry.
Yeah, and it's dry. Like with the tart cherry finish plus the oak finish, it's dry. How are you feeling about this?
I'm telling you, I am typically very sensitive to coriander, and I am not pulling it out.
I'm not pulling any coriander out of it. Does it say coriander?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, no, just orange peel and cherries. Okay.
Orange
I
peel
thought
and
I heard
cherries,
you say
yes.
coriander.
Well, what's
Coriander is one of those flavors. Like some people like that. But to me, like if it's one of those flavors where the tiniest bit too much just destroys the beer.
Mark, is this the astringency that you were talking about earlier? Because
So-
one of the things that happens to me once I finish a swallow of this is I go, I really want another drink.
Yeah.
Like I really want to taste that again.
The back of the throat will get a dryness to it after you swallow, and that's astringency. It kind of, when you have an astringent, it tightens the skin.
And it makes you go, I want more. Interesting. That's. I think it's really good.
Agreed.
Ian, I get what you're saying about
Fantastic.
a little bit of the soy sauce. Like it might be interesting to taste a bottle that was a couple of years younger.
Well, the only reason I say that is because it's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's something that happens more and more with beers as they age. Like sometimes if you age a beer a little too long, it just turns into it tastes like soy sauce. But it's not a bad thing because like some beers have that flavor inherent in it, and this might be one of those.
You're probably one
So
of
it's
the
hard
more,
to tell.
Yeah, you're probably one of the more beer intelligent guys that I know. When you're dealing with something like, a stout, and it's been barrel aged, and now it's bottled. Do you have a feel for what the sweet spot would be in terms of how long that bottle's going to be good?
It's going to vary by beer. I
Yeah.
mean, there are instances where you're going to want to take it to 10 years. There's instances where
well,
you're
with
not.
wines and so
Yeah.
many other things, the aging really helps and really brings out complexity. But so often in beer, it doesn't. So
The more robust styles have much more stability and will be consistent more long term. then like the Pliny, for example, radically changed over.
And you
its
have tasted
course.
the younger Pliny, so you have a real sort of marker to put it up against. So
Yeah.
fascinating. All right. Well, I will still say this: my invitation still goes out to anyone who's got any Pliny, particularly if it's younger. If you want to swap, we'll send you some St. Arnold Oktoberfest, and trust me,
That
it's
stuff's so
a
good.
pretty fair trade. It's a pretty fair trade because St. Arnold Oktoberfest is really good. But I really do like this, though, Ian. I like this.
It's delicious, yeah.
Better than some of the barrel aged things that we've had. Better than some of them because of the sour cherry thing that's on the very, very end of that finish.
Well, the tartness wipes away a lot of that sticky sweet that you get in the aftertaste. So there's almost no sweetness in the aftertaste. It's that tart cherry, and then even that goes away and just leaves you with that. I kind of want more.
Yes, that astringency.
It's a little mouth-watering.
It's really good. Would something like this work on draft?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Especially if they're
Especially if they're cleaning out their lines. Yes.
Yeah, and this has a lot of tart. This has tart
Yeah.
like Petrus's tart. Like this has a lot of that
I
sour
want
to
to
it.
I want to thank Mark Nichols for being on the show this week. And Mark, if people have heard what you're talking about and they're interested in contacting you for your services, what's the best way to reach you?
My cell 713
He's given his phone number. kids.
283 2999
That
Did you
number
say
again is
713-283-2199?
2999.
299. All right.
All right. So that's how to reach him, and I'm pretty much going to guarantee you this man will make the beer you're pouring at your place better. And he does. He is the beer poet, by the way. So if he comes in and like sets you up, then sit him down, pour him a beer, and just talk beer with him.
And just remember,
because he's fascinating. To do
everything
that
that goes through this line is touching your lips.
with. Yes, exactly, and the lining of your stomach. So.
Yes.
So, all right, couple things we need to know. The next show is a landmark. Unbelievably now, this program has gone on for 99 episodes, and no one has stepped in to try to
I blame
stop it.
all of you fans
Yes.
because while some of you are encouraging and some of you aren't, none of you have stopped us yet.
That's right. None of you have stepped in and done what probably needed to be done. And so we're still here. And next week we have invited, and I think currently we've got about 20 to 25 RSVPs, and there'll be more, I'm sure, before this is done. But we've invited everyone who's ever been a guest on the show to come and join us for the show for next week. And we're going to have a whole bunch of mics, we're going to have a whole bunch of spirits, a whole bunch of cigars, and a whole bunch of beer, and we're just going to taste and talk spirits, fine cigars, and great.
It's just going to be a
great
round
craft
table of the
beer.
industry.
It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. I'm looking so forward to it. Our show, as usual, has been and will be brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork and Fort Worth. Bacon, bacon, bacon. And
Chef Tommy's bacon.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to thank you guys. 99 episodes, number 100 coming. This has been a wonderful trip so far, and we're looking forward to the next 100. Smoking and Toasting is a it's just kind of something we do as a labor of love. Until, of course, Ian brings the Malört, and then you question why you're doing it at all.
Now, just so you know, I also have, he sent not only the Malört, but he sent something called Besk, Besk.
I don't know what it is, and I don't trust you. Just so you know.
And he said it's like Malört, but it's the better version of it. I'll bring that next time.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Also, I figure what we'll do is next week when we do the 100th episode, we have everybody in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring this and set it out on the counter just to see who is actually paying attention.
Yeah. What I want you to do is to make a little mark at the level that the liquid is in the bottle, and then at the end of the show, we'll look to see if anybody had even the tiniest bit of
And
Malört.
we will know them by their faces.
And we will know them by their faces. Isn't that a progressive rock band? Have a wonderful week, my friends. Mark, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you.
Salute to Adam on the Wheels of Steel, and thank you to everybody who's gotten us now to 100 episodes, starting next Thursday. Chris Hart from the Houston Whiskey Social. Sorry we didn't get our segment in, but we'll get to it, and it'll be fun when we get there, and we'll talk to to you and have some whiskey next week on the show. Have a wonderful week, my friends. Thank you again, Mark, for being here. And with the very last bit I have of the stout here. Cheers, my friends. Oh, pour more. Let's do cheers right. Cheers, cheers.
Congratulations on 99 shows, guys.
Thank you. And we'll see you next week.
Indeed.
That stout's good.